All right, sixth graders, welcome to Multiplying Decimals War, the game in which you multiply decimals and then compare your products to see who will win the round and ultimately the whole game. For starters, you will need one deck of playing cards and you will need to remove all tens, jacks, queens, and kings from the deck. They can be used later on in future weeks as variations to the original game. To start off with, each player will take 4 cards and set them out in front of them. This is an example in which there are 2 people playing against one another, and my cards here are 5, 7, 2, and 1. I can rearrange them however I like. The only rule is the fact that if it's a red card, that means that it is behind the decimal place. If it's a black card, that means it represents a whole number. So in this particular instance, I could not choose where to put my 5. I had to put it in a whole number spot. But I have a 7, a 2, and a 1. And so I could rearrange these cards to be more strategic in what my final product would be. In this case, I chose 5.7 times 0.21. Players will multiply their cards together. And so in this particular instance, I multiplied 5 and 7/10 times 21 hundredths. And it's important to remember to line up my numbers. And then in the end, I decided where to put my decimal back in. In this particular case, I came up with an answer of 1 and 197 thousandths. And here is my work. And so this is very important to show your work along the way, because if you as a competitor challenge the product of your opponent, you will need to show your work and explain to that opponent why you got the answer that you did. This can help to troubleshoot a lot of disagreements throughout the game. Once you win a round, you would take all the cards that were represented in the game. So in this particular instance, there were 8 cards. So if I were to win this round, I would take all 8 cards. So if my product was bigger, I would pull all 8 and I would keep those by my side as a representation of me winning that round. If you have a product, or rather, if you and your opponent both have the exact same product, that is what we call war. And then we would push these cards to the side. We would flip over 4 new ones for each of us, and then we would take some time to rearrange them and then multiply, just like we did in the first round. The winning product, or the largest product, would also get the other 8 cards. So you'd get 16 cards in total. Once the cards run out, or there are not enough cards in the deck to play a full round, like let's say there's only 2 cards left in my actual deck, then that would mean that the game is over, and then both my opponent and I would count our cards. The person with the most cards would win. Some variations that you can play. First off, you can play one in which you put the face cards and the tens back in. Tens and face cards would be worth 0, and then that would represent a placeholder for that number. So if I had a red king, for example, I couldn't just place it right at the end. I would have to actually place it in between 2 decimals, and then that would actually make my number have more decimal places. I could also play to the lowest number instead of the highest, the golf variation, if you will. And so in this particular instance, I would be strategically placing my cards so that I would get the lowest product, and that would be the winner. Have fun with this game, compete, and we will see you for the next math game. Have fun.